My name is Clara Goshorn, and I'm 34 years old. If you ask people who I am, they'll say, I'm that electrician who owns the cute old craftsman by the breweries, or the woman with the all-female crew who does industrial work like a beast. What they won't see is the part where I almost handed over everything I built to a man who thought love meant putting his name on my deed. I've been in the trade since I was 19. While most of my friends were still figuring out majors, I was pulling cable in freezing warehouses and getting burns on my hands from working in cramped electrical rooms. My dad was an electrician for 35 years before he retired. He used to say two things on repeat: protect your work with licenses and insurance, protect your life with signatures and paperwork. As a teenager, I rolled my eyes. As a homeowner, I realized he'd been preparing me for people like my ex. 6 years ago, when I was 28, I bought my house. Not a shiny new build in a perfect suburb, but a 1920s craftsman with original hardwood floors, stained glass windows, and a neighborhood everyone politely called up and coming, which was code for still a little sketchy, but cheap if you're brave. I paid $420,000 for it. At the time, it was every penny I had. I'd saved for years, working double shifts, picking up side jobs on weekends, saying no to vacations and fancy dinners because a down payment mattered more than Instagram photos. My dad helped me install security cameras and reinforce the doors. Clara, this is the part no one glamorizes, he said, tightening a hinge on the back door. Everyone loves the I bought a house selfie. Nobody posts the paperwork, the sleepless nights of what if something breaks, or the contracts. That's the important stuff. The neighborhood was rough around the edges, but I saw more than boarded up buildings. I saw a new coffee shop 2 blocks away, a daycare center going in, a city redevelopment plan quietly posted on a bulletin board. I saw potential. For the first year, my days were job sites, and my nights were this house. I rewired half of it to bring it up to code, upgraded the electrical panel to 200 amps, installed new LED lighting, and refinished the hardwood floors one room at a time. My hands were splintered, my knees always bruised. I kept everything: receipts, permits, before and after photos, not because I'm a neat freak, but because Dad's voice followed me. Document everything. One day somebody will try to claim what you built. Don't just remember, prove. The risk paid off. Over the next 6 years, the neighborhood transformed. Breweries, yoga studios, organic markets, strollers where there used to be broken bottles. My house is worth around $750,000 now. Easy. Mortgage, under $2,000 a month because I'd put down a massive down payment and refinanced when rates dropped. It was my house, bought before any man had anything to do with it. Title, Clara Goshorn, and no one else. Then I met Dylan. He was 29, a pharmaceutical sales rep with a company car and a wardrobe that looked like he'd been born in business casual. We met at a friend's barbecue. He was charming, funny, and disarming in that way that makes you forget to be cautious. We bonded over long workdays and crap coffee. He told me he admired women who worked in the trades, that it was badass. I ran my own electrical contracting business with 8 employees, most of them women trying to carve out their place in a male-dominated world. When we started dating, it felt normal, easy. Thursday through Sunday at my place, Monday to Wednesday at his apartment. Then it became Sunday through Wednesday at mine because his neighbors were loud. Then it was, I'm just grabbing more clothes and I'll sleep here tonight. Traffic is terrible from my side of town. His complaints about his place started small. Broken dishwasher, noisy hallway, landlord who never fixed anything. I heard it the way I hear clients talk about bad wiring, an opportunity to solve a problem. One day you'll just move in and stop pretending you don't already live here, I joked once, tossing him a set of spare keys. He grinned like I'd handed him something much bigger. A week later, he officially moved in. Clothes, gaming console, enough sneakers to open a tiny shoe store. He converted my spare bedroom into his office, which I didn't mind. The house felt less like a shrine to my grind and more like a home. We agreed on money early. I paid the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, and all maintenance. He contributed to utilities and groceries. It's your house, he'd said. You bought it before me. I don't expect to split the mortgage. At the time, that sounded respectful. Looking back, it was more like the opening move. For about a year, things were good. We had our routines, me leaving early for job sites, him heading out late morning for sales calls. both of us collapsing on the couch after long days. We argued here and there, but nothing big. He joked about me marrying my work, and I joked about him flirting with doctors for a living. The first hairline crack appeared when his friend Ashley came to stay the weekend. Ashley worked in HR, lived in a high-rise downtown, and had an opinion about everything. She walked through my house with a glass of wine like it was an open house, making little comments. "Wow, this place is gorgeous, Clara. Dylan, you really landed well." I laughed it off. I shouldn't have. They were in the kitchen one night, half a bottle of wine in, while I was in the workshop sorting tools. I came in for water and heard Ashley's voice, sharp and carrying. "Wait, your name isn't on anything? Not even utilities? You've been living here over a year." I froze behind the archway. Dylan's voice was casual. "It's her house. She bought it before we met. It's no big deal." "No big deal?" Ashley scoffed. "You're building a life together. What if something happens to her? You'd be screwed. No rights, no equity. Do you really want to be at someone's mercy like that?" He didn't answer. I grabbed my water and went back to the garage, but the words stuck to the back of my neck like sweat. Over the next few weeks, little comments started to appear. "Ashley says it's weird I don't have my name on anything." My coworker was shocked when I said the house is only in your name. Each statement had an invisible sentence at the end. "What are you hiding, Clara?" I tried to brush it off. I'd bought this house alone. I'd taken all the risk. Of course, the title was in my name. But the pressure didn't stop. Real estate articles began appearing open on my laptop. Stories about women who got screwed over when men kept assets in their own name. Instagram posts sent to me. Real partners share everything. The drip, drip, drip of manufactured guilt. The direct hit came on a random Tuesday night. I'd grilled steaks, baked potatoes, even made a salad that didn't come from a bag. A small miracle with my schedule. We sat at the table, candles lit, music low. It felt cozy, domestic, safe. Then Dylan put his fork down and looked at me with that serious expression people get when they're about to start a fight they've already rehearsed. "Clara, we need to talk about the house." My stomach tightened. I knew exactly where this was going. "What about it?" I kept my voice calm. "We've been together over 2 years. I've lived here more than a year. Don't you think it's time we made things more official?" I took a sip of water. Define official. "I think you should add my name to the deed," he said. "Make me co-owner." I actually laughed until I saw he wasn't joking. "Dylan, I bought this house 6 years ago," I said slowly. "I put down $120,000 of my own money. I pay the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance. I did all the renovations. Why would I add you to the deed?" His face hardened. "Because we're partners. Because I live here too. Because if you really love me, you wouldn't even have to think about it." There it was, the line I'd been waiting for and dreading. "If you loved me," that phrase is never about love. It's about leverage. "Love and legal ownership are not the same thing," I said. "I do love you, but I'm not signing over half my house because you moved in with your suitcase and your Xbox." "So you don't trust me," he shot back. "This isn't about trust," I said, forcing my voice to stay level. "It's about reality. You didn't buy this house. You don't pay the mortgage. If we get married someday, we can talk about estate planning. But I'm not adding someone to my deed just because we're dating." His chair scraped back. Color rose in his cheeks. "Ashley was right. You don't see me as an equal. I'm just some guy crashing at your place with no security." "You have security," I said quietly. "You live in a beautiful house in a great neighborhood and pay a fraction of what you'd pay anywhere else. You have the right to leave anytime you want. What you don't have is ownership of something you didn't purchase." His eyes flashed. "Unbelievable. After everything I've done for us, this is how you repay me?" "For us?" I repeated. "You mean splitting groceries and utilities while I cover thousands every month alone?" The silence that followed was loud and sharp. He grabbed his keys. "I need to think about whether this relationship even has a future," he said, heading for the door. I stared at the half-eaten steak on his plate, my appetite gone, Dad's old warning echoing in my head. "The biggest mistake you can make, Clara, is assuming good times last forever. Protect what you build." For the first time since Dylan moved in, I wondered if he'd ever been here for me, or if he'd been here for the house all along. The locksmith had barely driven away when the first text came in. "You overreacted. We need to talk. You can't just throw someone out like trash. Please, don't do this." I didn't reply. For the first time in weeks, the silence in my house felt clean, sharp, honest. But peace never lasts long with someone who needs control more than they need dignity. The next morning, a car pulled into my driveway, loudly, intentionally. He stepped out like nothing had happened, hairstyled, shirt crisp, holding a to-go coffee cup like this was any other Tuesday. He walked toward the door and reached for the handle. It didn't turn. He froze. Then he tried again, harder. He knocked. Open the door. I stood on the other side, heart steady, jaw set. I know you're in there. He pounded harder. This is childish. We need to talk. I didn't move. After several minutes of yelling, pacing, threatening to call someone, and demanding closure, he finally left, revving the engine like a spoiled teenager denied a party. But the peace lasted only until nightfall. Around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed again. I talked to someone, and I do have rights. You can't just kick me out. This isn't over. The entitlement oozed off the screen. I powered my phone off. 2 mornings later, something else happened. I opened my front blinds and nearly choked. There he was, standing on the sidewalk, arms crossed, staring at my house like he owned it. He didn't knock this time. He didn't yell. He waited for almost an hour. When I finally left for a job site, I walked past him without looking. Really? He scoffed. You're not even going to talk to me? I unlocked my truck. There's nothing to talk about. You're being insane. I shut my door. Go home. This is my home. It never was. His face twisted, bitterness sharp and ugly. This is what you do? Throw people out when they stop worshiping you? I stared at him through the open window. You cheated, in my bed. He flinched, only for a second, before recovering. Maybe if you treated me like a partner, I wouldn't have looked elsewhere. There it was again. Blame, polished like a weapon. I put the truck in drive. Goodbye. He slapped the hood as I pulled away. The next escalation came exactly 3 days later. I returned from work to find a moving truck. A huge one, parked in front of my house. He was standing beside it with 2 movers, waving a clipboard like some self-appointed foreman. I stepped out of my truck slowly, every muscle going tight. What is this? I'm getting my stuff, he said breezily. Like you said I could. Your stuff is in the garage. He pointed toward the house. Most of my furniture is still inside. No, it isn't. Yes, it is. The couch, the dining table, the bookshelf. I stared him down. All mine. Bought years before I met you. He smirked. Funny, I have photos of them in the house. And I have photos of those same items in the house before you ever lived here. His smirk faltered. One of the movers cleared his throat. Sir, ma'am, we really can't get involved in... Just bring the couch out, he snapped. It's mine. No one is entering my house, I said. Touch anything inside, and that's trespassing. He crossed his arms dramatically. Fine. Call the police. Let's see who they side with. So I did. The officers arrived in 10 minutes. They listened carefully while I explained everything. Calm, measured, factual. Then he launched into his performance. She kicked me out illegally. I have rights. My belongings are inside my house. The officers looked at him. Sir, do you have any proof that the property inside belongs to you? Proof? He sputtered. I lived here. That's not proof. One officer turned to me. Do you have documentation? I handed over a neat folder. Receipts, photos with timestamps, an inventory list, the deed. After a few minutes, the officer closed the folder and addressed him plainly. Sir, nothing you've shown us indicates that any of the furniture inside belongs to you. But you may take the boxes from the garage, the officer continued. Nothing else. If you believe you have a legitimate claim, you may pursue it in civil court, but you are not entering the house today. His face flushed an angry, blotchy red. This is ridiculous. This is the law, the officer replied. I stood there, arms folded, watching as the movers loaded the boxes I'd packed. They worked quietly, professionals who wanted no part of the drama. When the last box was in the truck, the officer handed him a card with the case number. Have a good day, sir. He glared at me one last time. You're going to regret this. He climbed into the truck and slammed the door. I watched the vehicle roll away, the rumble fading down the street until there was nothing left but a warm breeze and a quiet ache in my chest. For the first time in a long time, I stepped back into my house and felt safe. But somewhere deep inside, I also felt something else. He wasn't going to disappear quietly. The quiet lasted 4 days. 4 entire days where my house felt calm, still, mine again. 4 days without texts, without calls, without footsteps outside, without the sour tension of wondering what he'd do next. On the 5th day, the storm arrived. It didn't come from him directly. It came from a lawyer. I was on my lunch break at a job site, sitting on the tailgate of my truck, eating a sandwich and reviewing electrical load calculations, when the email hit my phone. Subject: legal notice, representation of former partner. My stomach dropped. I opened the PDF. A formal letter. A law firm I'd never heard of. Stiff, officious wording. It claimed he had established common law marital rights, through cohabitation, that he was entitled to communal assets, including my house, that he had been wrongfully evicted, that he sought fair division of property. Fair division. Fair. I laughed out loud, sharp, humorless, drawing a few glances from my crew. I forwarded the email to my attorney with one line. Is this a joke? 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Yep, my attorney said. A very bad joke. Your state doesn't even recognize common law marriage. So they're just hoping I don't know that? Exactly, they're fishing. We'll shut it down. 10 minutes after that, a legal response went out. He had no claim to the house. No tenant rights. No marital rights. No financial contributions. No standing for any lawsuit. Followed by, cease all direct contact with my client. I exhaled for the first time since the email arrived. But underneath the relief was something else. A simmering anger. How dare he? How dare he cheat in my home, then try to take it from me? How dare he? A week passed with silence. Then the next tactic arrived. A knock on the door. Not loud, not angry. Dangerously polite. When I opened it, 2 uniformed officers stood on my porch. Ma'am, we received a call that someone is unlawfully withholding personal property. Of course he'd try this. I gestured for them to step inside. They glanced around the spotless living room and relaxed slightly. Everything he owns is in the garage, I told them. Packed, labeled, ready for pickup. One officer nodded. Mind if we take a look? I led them to the garage, opened the door, and pointed. Boxes, neatly stacked, sealed. All his items. The officer whistled softly. You weren't kidding. Did he say something was missing? I asked. He claims you're holding furniture, the officer replied. Couch, dining table, bookshelf. All of which I purchased years before he moved in, I said. I have documentation. He held up a hand. Not necessary. This looks straightforward. We'll let him know he can pick up his boxes and that's it. They left a card and walked back to their cruiser. I watched the car pull away. I wasn't relieved, because I knew this wasn't the last attempt. He had lost face. He had lost control. He had been told no in front of authority. Men like him don't stop when they lose. They escalate. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, a thick envelope arrived. A civil suit, filed officially. He was suing me for wrongful eviction, emotional distress, loss of shared property, financial damages, communal assets obtained during cohabitation. He wanted $50,000. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so exhausting. Still, I opened my documentation folder, my receipts, my photos, my project timelines, my permits, my inventory lists, and felt something almost like pride. I had built this case long before I ever met him. Dad's voice echoed in my head. Document everything, Clara. One day, someone will try to take what you've earned. He'd been right, and because of that, I wasn't afraid. The court hearing felt like theater. He arrived in a suit that didn't fit quite right, flanked by an attorney who looked like he'd taken the case on contingency and was already regretting it. I sat beside my attorney, calm, steady, my folder organized by tabs. His lawyer argued first. He spoke about shared life, implied agreements, emotional reliance, cohabitation, investment. Then it was our turn. My attorney opened the folder. He presented the deed with only my name, mortgage records showing only my payments, before and after renovation photos dated years before the relationship, receipts for all major furniture, utility bills showing the minimal amounts he contributed, police reports from the moving truck incident, screenshots of messages where he admitted the house was mine, a timeline of the relationship. By the time he finished, the judge was rubbing his temple like the headache was personal. His lawyer made one last attempt. Your Honor, we maintain that cohabitation. The judge cut him off. This state does not recognize common law marriage. The plaintiff has provided no evidence of financial contribution, tenancy, or ownership. This case is dismissed with prejudice. Dismissed with prejudice, meaning he couldn't refile. And the plaintiff, the judge continued, will pay the defendant's legal fees. He deflated visibly, shoulders slumped, eyes dull. A moment of petty, perfect satisfaction warmed my chest. But only for a moment, because when I stepped out of the courthouse into the bright afternoon air, the real weight hit me. It was over. Really over. And for the first time in months, I felt free. Freedom lasted exactly 6 days. 6 days where my house felt whole again. 6 days where I could sleep without checking the locks twice. 6 days without a single message, threat, or surprise visitor. On the 7th morning, my phone exploded. Dozens of notifications, tags, mentions, DMs from strangers. He had posted. Of course he had. The post was long, nearly an essay. and dramatic in a way only someone playing the victim could write. He wrote about being unfairly thrown out, about losing everything overnight, about years of emotional labor he felt he was owed compensation for, about a cruel partner who kicked him out with nothing. He never mentioned cheating, never mentioned the lawsuit he lost, never mentioned the police siding with me, and he never mentioned the house being purchased years before he existed in my life. The comments section was a war. Some people responded with sympathy. You deserve better. She sounds awful. No one deserves to be homeless. Others were skeptical. Something's missing from this story. So you lived rent-free and still wanted the house? Sounds like you're leaving out details. But the worst ones were messages sent directly to me. How do you sleep at night? You heartless witch. He supported you and you kicked him out. Doesn't matter who bought the house. Partners share. One message stood out. I know your address. I blocked that account instantly, saved screenshots, forwarded everything to my attorney. But underneath the adrenaline was something deeper, heavier. Not fear, weariness. He wasn't done punishing me. He wasn't done trying to reclaim power. And as long as he had an audience, he would keep the performance going. I stared at the post for a long moment, then opened my own social media app. I typed a single message. For those asking, I purchased my house 6 years ago, 3 years before meeting my ex. He contributed minimally to utilities and nothing toward the mortgage. After he cheated, I ended the relationship and asked him to move out. He sued me for ownership. He lost. Court records are public. That's all I will say. I didn't mention his name. I didn't insult him. I didn't feed the fire. I shut off my phone and went back to work. I thought the storm might die after that. It didn't. But something else happened, something I didn't expect. Messages started coming in from people I did know. Not gossipers, not drama chasers, people who had seen similar things. A woman in her 40s messaged me. My ex tried the same thing. I almost lost my condo. Thank you for speaking up. A contractor friend wrote, good for you. Boundaries protect more than property. Even my crew showed support. One of my electricians, a tough-as-nails woman who never commented on anything emotional, handed me a coffee and said quietly, good job not letting him steal your life. It meant more than I expected. A month passed. The noise faded. His followers moved on to new drama. The local rumor mill found new stories. His smear campaign withered from neglect. And finally, my life regained its rhythm. Job sites, contract bids, workshop upgrades, evenings spent sanding and varnishing the new workbench I'd been building for months. Then something unexpected happened. Someone new entered my life. We met through work, indirectly, through a mutual client on a large commercial renovation. He stopped by the site to evaluate load-bearing walls for a redesign, flipping through blueprints with calm precision. I noticed how he listened when people spoke, how he didn't interrupt, how he didn't posture or brag, how he moved like someone who was grounded, balanced, settled. Later that week, he invited me for coffee to go over structural plans. It was supposed to be a quick work meeting. It turned into an hour, then 2. He talked about his condo, how long he saved for it, how much he loved the independence of owning his own place. He said something that made my chest warm in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. Real partnership isn't about absorbing someone's life. It's about building alongside them. No hidden agenda, no entitlement, no pressure. Just presence. I found myself smiling genuinely for the first time in months. Weeks passed and we took things slow. I visited his place. Clean. Organized. Blueprints framed on the wall. Mortgage statements held in place by magnets on the fridge, a life built with intention. He visited mine, admired the hardwood floors I refinished myself, asked intelligent questions about my electrical upgrades, appreciated the craftsmanship without trying to claim it. One night, after we finished wiring overhead lights in my workshop, he leaned against the doorway, arms crossed casually. This place suits you, he said. You built something incredible here. I wiped sawdust from my hands. It was a lot of work. He smiled. Good things usually are. It was the opposite of everything I had lived with before. No envy, no resentment, no desire to stake a claim. Just respect. My father met him a month later. They hit it off instantly, talking codes, construction standards, material strength. I watched them from the kitchen doorway, feeling something like peace settle over me. After he left, my dad turned to me. That one's different, he said. Yeah, I agreed quietly. Dad studied me for a moment. Don't let fear make you isolated. Protect your assets, yes, but don't protect yourself out of a future. I'm trying, I admitted. Good, he said. Your mother would have liked him. And for the first time, I believed it. One evening, as we stood in my workshop under the new lights we installed together, he brushed a bit of sawdust off my sleeve. You know, he said softly, the way you handled everything. It was strong. You didn't let anyone take what you built. Had to, I said. He shook his head. No, you chose to. There's a difference. I met his eyes. He didn't see me as a resource, or an opportunity, or a prize. He saw me, the person, not the house, not the equity, not the life I built. Just me. Later that night, as I walked through my quiet house, past the rooms I repaired, the floors I refinished, the walls I painted, I realized something. He hadn't ruined me. He hadn't broken my ability to trust. He had only made me wiser and stronger and absolutely unwilling to ever shrink myself to make a man feel bigger. This house was mine. My peace was mine. My future was mine. And this time, anyone who wanted to be in my life would have to bring their own foundation, not stand on top of mine.